Okay, economic order quantity, also known as simply EOQ. Okay. Here, first let's look at some of the assumptions that we have to make, and some assumptions may seem kind of unrealistic, but it's really not. We'll take a look at these assumptions first. Okay, so demand is known and constant over time. Okay, and this is this assumption definitely it strikes you as something which is unrealistic because you demand fluctuates. And that's what the nature of demand is. You cannot predict demand, or demand is not going to stay exactly the same period after period after period. Okay, that's just basic fact. But it turns out that as far as economic order quantity is concerned, the fluctuations do not actually affect the order quantity. What is more directly related to fluctuations in demand is when to order, because if we don't order at the right time, if you order too soon, we will end up having too much inventory. If we order too late, we will run out of inventory because of those fluctuations. So reorder point, or when to order, that's what is affected by the fluctuations in demand. The demand being constant over time is not a problem with respect to EOQ. So what happens when the demand is not constant? So we will take care of that when we discuss the reorder point question later on in the chapter. Now lead time is known and constant. Okay, again, this is not as unrealistic as the first one. So oftentimes lead time can be a constant, very stable kind of thing. But once again, for the same reasons as I mentioned for number one, fluctuations or uncertainties in lead time really doesn't affect the economic order quantity. It is really the reorder point that's affected, and that's where we will take care of the case when the lead time is not constant and there is some variability involved in that. The third assumption is receipt of inventory is instantaneous. So this means not that there is no lead time at all. All it means is at the expiry of the lead time, the entire order is received in one single lot. So that's what instantaneous delivery is. And again, we will relax this assumption. So what happens if the inventory is, the order is supplied at a gradual rate and not in one single lot? Then we have to make some corrections. So we will look at that later on. Actually, the next model after this is the case where the receipt of inventory is not instantaneous. Now, purchase cost per unit is constant. So that means the cost of the item is independent of the order quantity. If you order 100 or if you order 1,000, doesn't matter. The cost of the item, whatever it is, $5, $10 per unit, it's exactly the same. Okay, so that's the reason why if this assumption is true, then your cost of the item is irrelevant for the decision analysis for economic order quantity. So we can ignore cost of the item. It's not going to change. It's not going to be different for different order quantities. So we can safely ignore it. But if quantity discounts are offered, so like if you order 100 units, the cost is $10. If you order 500 units, the cost is $8 per unit. So then cost of the item becomes related to the order quantity. It is not constant. So that would be the case of quantity discount. So we will look at that. That will be the third model that we'll be discussing. So the only variable cost, because if you assume purchase cost per unit is constant, so the only variable costs are ordering cost and holding cost. So if EOQ is small, you will have lots of orders, so your ordering cost will be high, but holding cost will be low because average inventory will be low. On the opposite, if the order quantity is large, so what is the balance between the two? So we have to resolve the internal conflict between the ordering cost and the holding cost. Now, since the lead time is constant and known, we can precisely calculate when we have to order so that we will never run out of stock. So that's why EOQ doesn't matter whether demand and lead time are not constant. So right now, since because of these two assumptions, we can place the order at precise moment in time so that we never run out of stock, and therefore stock out cost is also irrelevant when it comes to economic order quantity. Of course, they become relevant if the demand and lead time are not constant, but they are taken care of in the reorder point question.